What's up guys, it's Michael here. In this video we're going to cover is inflation going to go up or down? So when we talk about inflation, what is inflation in general? So inflation is where prices go up in value but the dollar itself stays stagnant. So basically your buying power of your dollar doesn't equal to the amount what was given before. For example, as I mentioned in my previous videos, you buy a bag of chips for $1. Or for example, you used to buy gas back in like around 1998 to 2000 for about $1 or a little bit more than $1, sometimes even less depending on the area. And now you look at gas, it went up in value, and that is inflation. Where prices become more expensive, your buying power becomes a lot less. So how does this have to do with interest? So right here, right now, as you can see, this is actually an open house that I'm currently hosting. So if you look at a house, all of this stuff right here is staged. And people come here, when they walk into this property, they look at this property, wow, it looks really nice. And they go and make an offer and buy it. Then they take something called loans. They can take loans from private lenders or banks, which most people take mortgages. So when you take a mortgage, you have to pay something called an interest. So interest, for example, you take a loan for $1 million to buy a property is like 1.2 million, let's put it that way. And you take 1%, you have let's say you have 1% interest rate. So what does that mean? So within that $1 million you borrow, when you pay it back, you gotta add 1% of that $1 million. So when you do that, that's when the bank or the lender makes money back. So you gotta think about it. When they loan money, it's a risk for them, whether or not you can pay it back or not, but they have to gain some type of value. So that is the value right there, is the interest rate. So why did the government raise the interest rate? So you look at a property like this, they want to buy a house, walk-in looks really nice, and they don't really have a second thought. It's like, oh look, I need to get a house as fast as possible. So you look at 2020 to now, current 2022, during that time, between 2020 to 2021, a lot of people came in, it's like, I just want to buy a house as fast as possible. It doesn't matter, it's run down or it's like staged up like this. I just want to buy it, doesn't matter. Even I don't have the money to afford it. Or in this case, a lot of people have the money to afford the property because right now the interest rate is between high 4s to low 7s, depending on your FICO score. So your FICO score will determine what type of interest you would pay. But in general, a lot of people will give, for example, 20% down. So 20% down of $1 million. Let's assume that this property right here is $1 million. They pay 20% down, which is about $200,000, and they borrowed the $800,000. So the interest rate right there, assuming your FICO is between high 4s, like 4.8 up to 7%. So you take the $800,000 you borrowed and you have to pay whatever percent that you signed an agreement with. That is the interest rate. So why did the government, it goes back down to why did the government raise interest rates? Because like houses like this right here, they go in a heartbeat. Meaning that when people see a property that they like, or especially in location, because houses are dictated by their location. If it's a good location, properties go really fast. If it's a bad location, it won't go as fast. But that rule was broken between 2020 and 2021. 2022 right now, the housing market is starting to stabilize between the buyer and the sellers, meaning they are becoming more leveled out. So when they spend that much money to buy a property, the property disappears, and you have only a limited amount of houses, and you will have a limited amount of space to be rented or sold. So if that's the case, the housing crisis basically just runs away. And this costs also include food, any necessities. For example, you can look at food in a supermarket. You can look at water. You can look at restaurants. Restaurants are raising prices because that is thanks to inflation. Now, how does this have to affect with interest rates? Simple. Because the housing market is anything with a big purchase that requires people to spend a lot of money up front. For example, one of them would be car, vehicle. And of course, America has really crappy public transportation for anyone watching outside the United States. And number two, homes. So most homes are over 6 figures, now including up to the 7 figures. So when you spend that amount of money just to get a property or to buy a vehicle, you have to take something called loan. The loan is where you borrow money from an institution, you gotta pay the interest rates. So if the government decides to raise interest rates, for example, 7%, they decide to bump it up to 10%. So people buying properties or giving out 20% down, or even ones that might even affect people giving 50% down, they borrow the other 50% of the money. Do they want to spend or pay that extra percentage? Meaning, if you borrowed $500,000, $500,000 for this $1 million home, and you pay 50% down, which is $500,000 in cash, because you need to have in cash. A lot of people don't. So you give that out and you borrow the rest. Do you want to pay 10% of that $500,000, assuming that interest rate, the lowest interest rate, was at 10%? No, most people won't, because it's not worth its value. So to break it down is interest rates, you rather go up or down depending on the government. At the end, really dictate on them and look at prices. But this is overall a waiting game. For example, this property is being sold. This is based on a waiting game, whether or not people really want it, and it's based on a location, and whether or not they want to pay that interest rate. So at the end, it will really dictate on people. What do people want to buy? Do people want to buy really expensive vehicles, really expensive houses? Or can they afford to wait and be very patient and let the economy settle back down? Then you get a better deal. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. Peace.